Part 26. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 259. Moreover, during the sparring session, Binghua made some useless moves more than once. According to Yug's Ni's later reflection, those were probably the killing moves that Binghua would use in a life-or-death fight. The reason YK Hubble didn't try to persuade him later was probably because he himself knew that the chance of success in this matter was a bit slim. As for YK Hubble knew that the hope of success was slim and still threw himself into it, it was probably because his son died in the civil war between the male and female angels, and he was left alone with the intention to die. As a result, no matter whether he succeeded or not, it was not for him. Words don't matter. In the Sky Meteor Galaxy, in order to reassure himself, Binghua sent his right-wing guardian angel Lan, who was staying in the Mellow Heavenly Court, to secretly go to the Skull Galaxy to thoroughly investigate the reason for the abnormal number of male angels in the Sky Meteor King City. After Kesha, who was returning to the Mellow Heavenly Court, heard about this, she separated two Sky Blades and one of her own guardian angels and headed towards the Skull Galaxy to cope with Binghua's right-wing guard. Of course, these were all done in secret. Binghua continued to clean up the remnants of the chaos virus in the Tianyu Galaxy. As for the Eternal Ascended Fleet, it was hidden and no trace could be found at all. In the eastern part of the Sky Meteor Galaxy, in a star system completely surrounded by an asteroid belt, a small annihilator battleship over 100 meters long sailed quietly. When it sailed into an empty space, the belly tank below it moved to both sides. Open. A device with elongated conical shapes on both sides, more than 10 meters in diameter and more than 10 meters long, and surrounded by a metal ring was released. As if it contained a navigation program, it automatically flew forward a short distance as soon as it was released by the Annihilator warship. Then the metal cone above it deformed and spread around, revealing a complex gear-shaped hollow in the middle, and then the light around it was distorted, and it turned into an ordinary asteroid. The gold-silver heavenly sword battleship that resembled a dagger sailed outside an asteroid belt and gradually began to stop. Sister He, the data shows that the energy signal emitted by the Eternal Ascended One has disappeared in this star field. Do we want to continue to pursue it? In the bridge of the Sky Sword battleship, a female angel sitting in front of the console turned around and asked the angel Helen, who was standing in front of the bridge window and looking straight ahead. Helen retracted her gaze towards the shattered planet belt, turned around and revealed her serious face with a hint of charm. Continue to pursue it? I don't know what little tricks the Eternal Ascended Ones are doing. This is not the first time that their traces have been detected near here. It's Sister He. I will order the combat team to go to the nearby star field to conduct a detailed investigation. In the empty rest room of the Tianjian battleship, I suddenly remembered the order from the bridge. Combat team numbers 09, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Please prepare for the attack and gather at the combat platform. The angel warriors, who were originally gathered in the rest room wearing regular uniforms and red armor linings, after hearing this announcement, quickly stopped chatting and returned to their respective residences to prepare for the attack. Soon, no less than 100 female angels gathered on the combat platform on top of the Sky Sword, including more than 20 elite captains equipped with flaming swords. Helen held her waist with her hands and gave the final lectures and reminders before the attack to the angels present through the public channel. Although her beautiful face had a charming temperament, no angel present dared to look down upon her. There is no such thing as seniority in the Sky Sword Legion. They go through the back door. Regardless of the captain or captain of each combat team, their status is achieved by fighting with the sword in their hands. Your mission is to go into the asteroid belt and explore the galaxy inside to see if there are any abnormalities. Because the Sky Sword target is too big to pass through the dense rubble belt, you will not have any battleships to provide for this mission. Fire support. After Helen finished speaking, he glanced at the angels standing upright, and when he saw that no angel raised any objection, he said, "If you encounter an emergency, contact Tianjian, and don't show off. Then the warriors of the Tianjian Legion will attack." After Helen finished speaking the last two words, the angels standing on the front of the Sky Sword battleship spread their wings behind them and flew away from the Sky Sword battleship towards the star system surrounded by the asteroid belt. "There are so many asteroids around here that we can't hide anything. Did Sister He make a mistake?" A combat team was walking through the rubble, and one of the angels complained as he avoided the asteroids in orbit. "Sister He, this is to be sure. Otherwise, what if the Eternal Ascended One really has some conspiracy here and endangers the safety of Angel Nebula?" At this time, another female angel answered, "You are exaggerating. Are those machines threatening our angelic civilization?" Once again a female angel intervenes in this topic. "Hey! Don't be too arrogant when you speak. The Queen once said that we must recognize ourselves and not be arrogant. Only in this way can we improve. I don't think we should underestimate the Eternal Ascended One." The female warrior who initiated the topic at the beginning focused her attention on the topic, instead of carefully observing the surrounding environment. She just avoided the asteroids blocking her path. When her companions talked about the Queen, she couldn't help but say, "By the way, did you see the scene when the Queen fought last time? Those Eternal Ascended Ones are no match for them. They can't even block the Queen's moves. Yes, it would be great if I were as strong as the Queen. Speaking of which, is the King of Heavenly Sword more powerful or the Queen? Of course the Queen is awesome. I won't accept any refutation. The Queen is invincible, the Queen is the most powerful." The topic was quite normal at first, but then it gradually veered into an unknown direction. The captain in front of him, who was an audience member, shook his head, hoping that a group of queens would be able to discuss some constructive topic. She was simply overthinking it. In the end, the leading warrior couldn't help but echoed in his heart, "The Queen must be the strongest, whoever refuses to accept will be killed." A few hours later, most of the star field that this team was responsible for exploring had been explored. In the entire star field, except for hundreds of floating meteorites with a diameter of tens of meters, there was nothing left. When flying near an asteroid with a diameter of more than 10 meters, the female angel in the combat team who complained at the beginning that nothing could be hidden here suggested, "Sisters, let's relax for a while. I have been flying for a long time and I have been very nervous. Not to mention the Eternal Ascended One, I haven't even seen a ghost." The remaining 4 female angels in the Venyan team also stopped moving forward. They also felt that their spirits were a little tired. The female angel warrior who first suggested relaxing lay comfortably in the vacuum of space, floating toward the asteroids behind her. Just when she was about to lie down on the surface of the asteroid for a while and relax, her body actually fell into the asteroid. This made her eyes widen instantly, and a feeling of extreme danger arose in her heart. This is today. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 260. A ray of silver light swept through the space and shot from a distance. With a pop, a dazzling blood flower bloomed from the belly of the female angel trapped in the meteorite. The eyes of the other female angels who were resting around the meteorite widened slightly at the same time, and they moved sideways to dodge in an instant. The next moment, dozens of silver rays of light shot out in a staggered manner, passing through where they were just now, leaving only a faint optical afterimage in their retinas. However, the angel who was shot through the abdomen in the first place did not have such sensitive reflexes. He was directly hit by several rounds of silver light. Even the helmet he was wearing was knocked off and was shot from a distance. The silver bullet hit the side of his head. He lost consciousness on the spot and did not know whether he was alive or dead. The attack direction is vertical 156, vertical 121, pay attention to defense. Because directions in the universe are three-dimensional, The way angels identify directions is to use the intersection of two circles to locate them. The captain holding the flaming sword shouted loudly, and immediately flew in front of the unconscious team member. The flaming sword was raised in front of him, and a silver bullet was knocked away with a fierce swing. The other three angels present also immediately put the shields they carried in front of them and shrank their entire bodies behind them. For a moment, I could only feel the heavy impact hitting the shield. Only the captain, a second-generation angel, could clearly see the bullets fired. And this is not the end. Some asteroids that were originally floating in the starry sky disappeared in the distorted light and shadow, revealing the existence hidden inside. They were dozens of eliminators holding rectangular and heavy firearms. After some of the meteorites dissipated, several very special devices were revealed. They flew to an open location and emitted light to connect with each other, forming a dark rectangle of hundreds of meters. Then a medium-sized eliminator battleship emerged from this dark place. Fly out of the rectangle. Seeing such a scene, even the captain of the combat team couldn't calm down. His face became extremely ugly, and even his voice was no longer calm as usual, and he shouted in an almost twisted voice. Retreat quickly. The star system that was as silent as a dead zone before was now alive and completely transformed into the headquarters of the Eternal Ascended Ones, and all the angels could do was retreat. Turning around to grab the unconscious companion, the angel captain and his three companions, like naughty children who had stung a hornet's nest, rushed towards the asteroid belt at the edge of the galaxy at their maximum flying speed, hoping that it could block the eternal sublimation that followed. For a while, Tianjian, which was located outside the star system at this moment, naturally detected the changes that occurred within the star system, and immediately approached the asteroid belt. At the same time, it issued an emergency retreat order to the angel warriors who were still exploring the planet. In front of the Sky Sword battleship, under the bow, the hidden main gun of the Spear of Light began to gather energy, compressed into a spear-shaped ray and fired it out. A straight passage was instantly cleared out of the asteroid belt, but the path to the galaxy could not be completely opened. At this time, the angel warriors who were close had already withdrawn from the asteroid belt and boarded the Sky Sword battleship that came to meet them. At the same time, some Eternal Ascended Annihilation battleships and eliminators launched an attack on Sky Sword. What on earth happened? Where did these Eternal Ascended Ones come from? Didn't there be any signs of the existence of a large number of Eternal Ascending Ones in this starry sky? In the bridge of Tianjian, Helen was like a dynamite barrel about to explode. His tone was so explosive that some female angels around him shrank subconsciously. Sister, it's space fluctuation. The Eternal Ascender used technology similar to dimensional space to block our detection. There was almost a tic-tac-toe between Helen's brows. Because it was quite expensive to enter another dimension, and the living could not enter directly, the angel did not involve too much, but used the more convenient and faster micro-wormhole transportation. Helen closed his eyes to sort out the chaotic thoughts in his mind. Finally, his clenched teeth relaxed and he regained his composure. Damn it! Forget it, now is not the time to talk about this. Keep moving forward to contain the evacuated angel warriors. We must never give up on any of our sisters. Let me fight back with all my strength from the heavenly sword. The dark energy railguns mounted on the external Tianjian battleships poked their heads out from hidden corners and fired out shuttle-shaped beams. Some of the Eternal Ascended Ones who surrounded them were temporarily suppressed by Heavenly Sword's firepower and were unable to form a siege. They could only bombard the shield deployed by Heavenly Sword from a distance. As the firefight dragged on longer and longer, the shield of Tianjian gradually became unable to withstand the heavy firepower, and the surface began to tremble violently. Some attacks even penetrated the shield and hit the surface of Tianjian. Under the energy explosion, a shallow pit of 2 or 3 meters with sparks suddenly appeared on the external armor on the side of Tianjian. Helen held onto the wall of the bridge and said, "How many sisters have not yet evacuated?" Sister, he also has a team. Contact them quickly and ask them to withdraw as soon as possible. I'll get in touch right away. The hiding asteroid was blasted to pieces, and the female angel warrior who used it as a cover was caught off guard and was directly thrown away by the impact. At the same time, several eliminators and humanoid robots armed with square and heavy firearms rushed forward. Before they could even raise their weapons, they were cut across their bodies by red sword light and lost their ability to fight. Team 18, please withdraw from the asteroid belt immediately and board the Sky Sword. Please withdraw immediately and board the Sky Sword. Covering the abdominal wound with a bullet embedded in it with his left hand, the angel captain was half kneeling on an asteroid with a flaming sword in his hand. He looked at the densely packed Eliminators and Annihilators warships that were surrounding him. A bleak look appeared on his delicate face under his helmet and visor. Smile. This is Team 18. We can no longer board the Sky Sword to evacuate. Please tell Sister He that you don't have to wait for me anymore. After speaking, the half-kneeling angel captain stood up, the flaming sword in his hand bursting with dazzling colors, and the bodies of 4 angels whose armors were stained with blood floated in the asteroid not far behind him. Even if you die, you machines won't have an easy time. Remember, I am a soldier of the Heavenly Sword Legion. After saying this, the angel captain ignored the huge disparity in the numbers between the enemy and ourselves, and resolutely rushed towards the surrounding Eliminator and Annihilator battleships in the face of the dense rain of bullets. His lonely back was so fearless. After hearing this conversation from the angel in charge of communications, Helen on the Sky Sword battleship clenched his fists and then slowly loosened them. Finally, he turned around and closed his eyes to face the bridge window and whispered, "Turn around, leave here, and at the same time pass the information about the Eternal Ascended here to Sister Ran. Apply for support from the Sky Blade battleship." The Tianjian battleship, whose shield was on the verge of being broken, turned suddenly, drew an arc in the dense fire, and instantly accelerated away from the star system. For unknown reasons, the Eternal Ascended One did not pursue it, but slowly retreated back to the star system surrounded by the asteroid belt. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 261. The sound of combat boots on the floor echoed in the corridor of Tianren. Angel Ran looked serious and did not say hello when passing by the guard at the door of the conference hall. He just nodded slightly and stepped into the hall. The scene in the hall made Ran stunned, because in the empty conference hall at this moment, pieces of silver-gray giant blades were suspended in the air, neatly rotating around the top of Binghua's head below like a gear. Binghua heard the movement behind him, turned around and saw that it was Angel Ran, and stopped adjusting the things above his head. The giant blades that were originally arranged and suspended in a circle suddenly accelerated their rotation, entered the micro wormhole below and disappeared into the conference hall. After finishing all this, Binghua spoke curiously. "Ran, is there anything important?" Only then did Angel Ran react. Although he knew that this was a new anti-ship weapon manufactured by the Queen in recent years, he did not expect that the actual application picture would be so shocking. "The Queen is like this, I'm here to report an unusual news." Angel Helen reported not long ago that a large number of Eternal Ascended Ones were found in a star system in the eastern part of the Sky Meteor Galaxy, and applied for Sky Blade support. Binghua paused as she walked towards the throne, then looked back at Angel Ran in surprise. "It's abnormal to gather in large numbers and even need to use the Heavenly Blade. Since the last time they destroyed their Stargate, the Eternal Ascended Ones have disappeared one after another. There must be some reason why they suddenly appear now." Looking at the Queen, who was rubbing her chin with her right index finger and thumb in deep thought, Angel Ran said, "So Queen, I plan to take 2 Sky Blades to the scene to see the situation in person." Binghua thought this was okay, but to be on the safe side Binghua still said, then I'll ask Ming, Mo Yun and Chuang to go with you, so that you can take care of them. Angel Ran felt very inappropriate after hearing this, and quickly stopped her. Queen, they are your guardian angels, how can you go with me? Binghua raised his hand and interrupted, do you think your queen needs their protection? They follow me every day, and their skills and judgment have deteriorated. They just go out with you to relieve the battlefield environment. Okay, it's decided. In the end, Binghua didn't give Angel Ran a chance to refute and decided the matter directly. As a left-wing guard, Angel Ran could not disobey his queen's order, so he had no choice but to agree. As a purely military group, the Heavenly Sword Legion has a very high execution efficiency. After the Queen and the left guard give the order, the dispatch center within the Legion begins to prepare for the Skyward Blade's attack. First, after Tianren conducts a system self-check to confirm that there are no problems, the Legion Dispatch Center begins to recruit idle angel teams. Finally, when the combat personnel are replenished, the high-level angels who perform the mission will be notified. It was less than a day before the incident in the asteroid belt star system occurred. The Sky Sword Legion's temporary headquarters in the Sky Meteor Galaxy had already prepared the Sky Blade battleship for attack. There is a ship anchored in the area beyond the visual distance of the asteroid belt, with some deep and shallow circular burn marks on the surface. Sister He, the supporting Sky Blade is already on its way here. Angel Helen, who was standing by the bridge window, turned to look at the angels in the bridge. Get ready. There should be a tough battle to be fought next. Let the angel warriors be prepared. Not long after Angel Helen finished speaking, blue light flickered slightly in the distant space. The next moment, among the exploding blue energy particles, a Sky Blade battleship suddenly appeared on the sky where Helen was. Next to the sword, its huge hull even blocked the view window on the right side of the Sky Blade's bridge. Less than 2 seconds after the Sky Blade appeared, another Sky Blade appeared soon after. Things became simple after that. The slightly damaged Heavenly Sword was recovered by Heavenly Blade, and wartime emergency repairs began to become popular. At the same time, Helen, the captain, was also summoned to Heavenly Blade by Angel Ran to conduct more detailed intelligence. Hand over. After listening to Helen's report, in order to avoid long nights and dreams, and according to the intelligence, there were no high-level purifier warships in the Eternal Ascended troops, Angel Ran directly ordered 2 Sky Blades to immediately go to the place where the Eternals were infested. Star System. At this moment, in the star system where the Eternal Ascended One appears and there is a natural isolation zone, countless eliminators are busy. The cylindrical devices with unknown functions and a ring in the middle were pushed to a specific position, next to a star that was burning brightly. From a distance, it looks like a large circular metal network formed by countless pointed cylindrical devices, with an astonishing diameter of nearly 2,000 kilometers. At this moment, in the invisible data world, a huge torrent of data envelops these dense devices, as if a great will has descended here. The 16,600 jump base stations have been deployed. All self-tests have now been completed and we are preparing to activate the jump base station energy collection device. The jump of the Destroyer 023 Seves star-level combat unit will begin in half an hour. A message broadcast on the Eternal Ascended channel in the galaxy began to be broadcast continuously, which made some lower Eternal Ascended people feel a little excited. As eternal beings with a mechanical body, they suffered such a huge failure in the Angel Nebula. Not to mention the purifiers, the eliminators, and annihilators who were transformed from carbon-based life have long felt aggrieved. In the simple programming thinking that they were transformed, the Destroyer, who was only one level lower than the Creator Seminary, personally descended on the Angel Nebula, which would undoubtedly allow them to successfully complete the purification operation of the Angel Nebula. One by one, the jump base stations began to deform, and the metal shell on the outside cracked and flipped backwards, revealing the mesh structure inside and pointing it in the direction of the star. The next moment, the orange-red energy particles visible to the naked eye detached from the star and were sucked towards the large network formed by densely folded base stations. Half an hour later, as there were more than 10,000 jump base stations, another section of the muzzle rotated like teeth, and at the same time it shot out a blue energy column with a diameter of several meters. Then this energy violently exploded some distance away from the launch site. The explosion opened a large hole in the universe and formed a blue energy vortex about 2 kilometers across. Not long after the blue energy vortex was formed, an object with a metal structure emerged from its center. As more and more metal structures appeared, what finally emerged from the jump gate turned out to be a metal planet. If an aerospace-grade civilization saw this shocking scene, they would be frightened and immediately turn around and leave the star field. Just after the metal planet passed through the warp gate built by the warp base station, Angel Ran and the two Sky Blades also came to the outside of the star system and immediately discovered the extra planet with a diameter of more than 1,000 kilometers. Metal Planet. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 263. This metallic planet is none other than Destroyer 023 Ceves. It successfully jumped from the barren cosmic belt into the meteor galaxy inside the Angel Nebula through numerous jump base stations built by the lower Eliminator and Annihilator near the star. When Skyblade had just discovered that Service body had not yet completed data collection, Service also discovered the Skyblade battleship. Countless holes were cracked on the back of its metal celestial body, revealing countless jets, which then ejected lines of light, their bodies comparable to small planets, moved rapidly towards the asteroid belt outside the star system. While Ceves was moving out of the galaxy, somewhere on the side of the body facing the Skyblade battleship, the armor within a few kilometers separated to both sides, revealing a square gun barrel with sharp edges and corners that was several kilometers long. The surface of this rectangular gun barrel is covered with neatly arranged protruding metal teeth, and the long firing track inside can be vaguely seen. After a few seconds of adjustment, the long gun barrel finally pointed in the direction of the Skyblade battleship, and then the body of Ceves near the fort was illuminated with orange-red energy transmission lines like magma. A huge solid shell is sent in front of the firing track and pushed into the barrel by a mechanical braking device. Traces of orange energy rings began to flash around the barrel. The next moment, an energy ring suddenly exploded from the muzzle. A beam of orange light shot out, and a horn was opened in the outer asteroid belt. Then he attacked the Heavenly Blade battleship through a gap in the shape of a gap. The moment Service opened fire, the Skyblade battleship sounded an alarm, and the ship's simple intelligence system began to evade and opened the energy shield immediately. Angel Ran, who was sitting in the main seat, was still watching the image of nearby galaxies formed by the Skyblade detection, when he suddenly heard the alarm sound of the Skyblade system, and then a violent vibration struck. A beam of orange-red light from the outside instantly penetrated the shield and passed through the left wing of the Skyblade that was deviating to one side. The huge kinetic energy directly caused the Skyblade to flip over, deflecting to one side and almost hitting another ship on the side. Skyblade battleship. After finishing shooting, Service on the other side continued to move forward without slowing down, and soon reached the asteroid belt outside the galaxy, directly hitting it with its majestic body comparable to a planet. The countless asteroids that stood in front of it were directly smashed into fragments, and were crushed into cosmic dust by Ceves' huge mass and spread around. On the Skyblade battleship at this moment, Angel Ran shook his head while holding the armrest of the main seat, sat upright again with a puzzled expression, and contacted the operator on the Skyblade to ask what happened. Sister Ran, an unknown high-speed object just broke through the shield of Skyblade and penetrated the light energy integrated stance array on the left wing of Skyblade. Angel Ran's expression condensed, and he did not rush to ask the reason but asked about the extent of the damage to the Skyblade. How is the damage done to the Skyblade? How much combat capability can it still exert? Sister Ran, judging from the damage to the light energy integrated array on the left wing of the Skyblade, the energy recovery speed of the Skyblade will be reduced by 30%, and the shield strength will also be affected to some extent. Hearing this, Angel Ran secretly breathed a sigh of relief, as long as Tianren did not lose his fighting ability. Sister Ran, I have calculated the location of the starting point of the attack, and now I will link you to the real-time detection image. Just a few seconds after the female angel's voice fell in the communication, a projection was projected in the air in front of Angel Ran. When he saw the scene of Sevis using his celestial body to forcibly open a passage in the asteroid belt, Angel Ran was so shocked that he could hardly speak. It's not like Angel Ran has never seen a celestial-level fortress. Hua's royal city used to be a celestial fortress with a diameter of more than 500 kilometers, equipped with a complete ultra-long-distance strike system. Today she once again saw the celestial-level fortress, and according to the data calculated by Tianren, its diameter exceeds 1,000 kilometers, which is almost as big as 2 celestial palaces. Angel Ran immediately issued an order for Skyblade to stop advancing, and directly began to gather energy and fire at Sevis, who was out of sight. Enormous energy capable of annihilating stars gathered in the space in front of the Skyblade ship, like 2 shining stars, and then shot out a light of destruction forward. With such a huge energy reaction, it is naturally impossible for Sevis to not notice that some of the protruding facilities on the surface of the body exist precisely for this purpose. The star-destroying strike shot out by the Skyblade was deflected to one side like refracted light when it was still more than 10 kilometers away from Sevis' body surface. In the end, 2 star-destroying beams exploded in the asteroid belt, directly vaporizing a large area of asteroids. Sister Ran, the enemy has an unknown shield that deflects our Star Destroyer strike. At this moment, the magnificent lights shining everywhere on the Skyblade suddenly went out, and then came back on after a second. Angel Ran stood up from his seat. At this time, a female angel hurriedly came to Angel Ran and reported. Sister Ran. Just now, Tianren's system was invaded by remote violence. It has been blocked by the sisters, but part of Tianren's data was stolen by the other party. Angel Ran said in disbelief when he heard this. How is it possible? Tianren's ship-based system is the most advanced ship-based system of our angels today. How could it be invaded? The angel warrior below did not reply to Angel Ran's question and could only stand there. Angel Ran covered her forehead and felt that she had said some nonsense, but she had never encountered such a situation before and already had the intention of quitting. It's not that Angel Ran is afraid, but facing the celestial fortress, 2 Skyblades are simply not enough to see, not to mention that the enemy also has unknown defense methods. In this situation, retreat is the best option to prevent unnecessary sacrifices. At this moment, the Skyblade suddenly began to move to one side to avoid the orange-red beam coming from it. Finally Angel Ran made up his mind. Go and convey my order. Retreat immediately, go back and meet the Queen, and report the situation here. As the left-wing guard, Angel Ran's prestige was still sufficient. No angel voiced any doubts about her judgment. The 2 Skyblades did nothing but use Star Destroyer strikes and left the galaxy. Binghua felt a headache after listening to Ran's report. The Eternal Ascended One jumped over to a celestial fortress from nowhere. This thing was not easy to fight. And according to the latest intelligence, the target of the Eternal Ascended Celestial Fortress is still where he is now, which is the Angel Starport that has just been established. And judging from the speed of Sevis' advance, it will take about a few days to reach it. Arrival. It seems that I need to prepare early, but it is probably difficult to rely on the Skyblade to storm the Celestial Fortress. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 264. As the largest battleship of the Angels today, the Skyblade series of battleships have extraordinary firepower and specifications, and are classified by the Angels in the battle order of celestial battleships. But this also depends on who you compare with. Just like the original angel city that has been disintegrated by the female angel, Its scale is also a celestial level battle sequence, but because of its super large diameter, it is specially called a celestial fortress. The same is true for the incoming Sevis. Its diameter is more than 1,000 kilometers, and it is as terrifying as a planet. It can easily crush the Skyblade battleship just by relying on its size and mass. However, Binghua is not afraid of it, because the advantage of a celestial-level combat unit is its strong defense and attack, but its flexibility cannot be complemented. Super soldiers like Binghua, whose individual combat capabilities exceed conventional standards and possess super destructive power, are the nemesis of this type of combat celestial body. Although Binghua didn't understand the working principle of Serv's energy deflection shield, this didn't stop her from thinking about combat plans. And often the kind of defense facilities that can deflect energy are just special force fields that are emitted in advance for long-range high-energy strikes. They are simply unable to target single super soldier targets like Binghua. Therefore, Binghua's combat plan was not there from the beginning. Plan to use the Skyblade to attack. Because Service's route was directed towards the Heavenly Sword Legion's base camp in the Skyfall Galaxy, he appeared within the Skyward Sword Legion's detection range 3 days later. On the way, the Heavenly Sword Legion also tried several long-range sniper attacks, but the shooting trajectory was all deflected by the special energy deflection field near Serves. On the way, Kesha also asked Binghua if she needed help, but she was rejected by Binghua. As the queen of the current angel civilization responsible for foreign wars, she was confident to deal with the invading enemy this time. Of course, Binghua was not too arrogant, and had prepared defensive measures for the current Legion base to deal with Serves. In the conference hall, Binghua was at the top, and below were Angel Ran and a group of Skyblade and Skysword captains. The celestial fortress of the Eternal Ascended One is approaching here, and we cannot sit still and wait for death. However, it is unrealistic to rely on the Skyblade to attack by force. According to the intelligence brought back last time, the enemy has an ultra-long-range physical strike method that can easily penetrate the Skyblade's shield. So in this war, our Heavenly Sword Legion can only outwit us? Binghua's crisp voice echoed clearly in the hall, as if ringing in the ears, so that every angel present could hear it clearly. In order to break through that energy deflection field, the high-level angels present, you will temporarily relieve yourself of your responsibilities as captains in this battle, and follow me through the wormhole to directly attack the surface of the enemy's celestial fortress, waiting for an opportunity to break into it, internally destroying its energy supply facilities. As soon as Binghua finished speaking, all the angels below spoke in unison, I am willing to go into battle with the Queen. Wherever the Queen's sword points, even if I must annihilate the enemy. Binghua was very satisfied with the performance of the angels below, and no angel raised any objection, which proved that her battle plan was still correct. In fact, although all the high-level angels present are captains, strictly speaking, the Heavenly Blade and Heavenly Sword series of the angel civilization are extremely intelligent. They only need to give the order to retreat and attack, and they are still powerful in themselves. Super Soldier. Actions like breaking into the surface of the enemy's celestial fortress to cause destruction are their specialty, and commanding the warships is just a part-time job. Binghua's rough battle plan is to break through the surface defenses of the Eternal Ascended Celestial Fortress and destroy its main internal facilities. If it still fails to make the Celestial Fortress lose its ability to counterattack, use Skyblade bombing to completely destroy it. Because Serv's advance was in a straight line, preparations for the invasion were quickly completed. Special camouflage technology was used to hide the micro-wormhole positioning device on Service's route, because as early as the last battle, Binghua discovered that the Eternal Ascended One did not have the means to detect dark communications. But at the same time, Binghua failed to discover what kind of communication method the Eternal Ascender used, otherwise he could have done some tricks in these aspects. When everything was ready, Binghua and many soldiers of the Heavenly Sword Legion were getting ready, when the right-wing guard Angel Lan, who was responsible for going to the Skull Galaxy to investigate the abnormal number of male angels, suddenly sent a communication. Queen, the recent behavior of Tianyu King Huayu is very suspicious. He is secretly mobilizing his legions to assemble in the royal city, and secretly collecting red gold, the main material of flame-level weapons. And according to the information provided by some female angels in Tianyun King City, there are many older male angels in Tianyun's legion. Queen, I think Hualien plans to start a rebellion among the male angels while the main force of the Heavenly Sword Legion and you are away. Lan, are you sure this is true? Faced with Binghua's confirmation, Angel Lan nodded seriously. Queen, I'm sure. Hearing this, Binghua could only rub her forehead gently. After thinking for a while, she could only let Angel Lan stabilize the situation in the Skull Galaxy first, and wait for her to resolve the matter here. In this case, Lan, you must first stabilize the situation in the Skull Star system. Didn't Kesha send 2 Sky Blades over there? You contact them and ask them to hang out near the Skull Star system recently and declare to the outside world. The Skyblade Legion will have a new generation of Skyblades that need to be tested nearby, and several Skyblade fleets will come over recently, so Huayu should not be nervous. Angel Lan on the other end heard this and also pointed out the shortcomings of this method. Queen, this won't last long. With Huayu's IQ, he will soon be able to see that this is just a delaying tactic. By then, he will probably think that his intentions have been exposed and will immediately start a rebellion. No way, let's leave it like this for now. I will finish handling the matters here soon, and then I will go to the Skull Galaxy in person. Binghua's tone was very cold, and even Angel Lan on the other end could hear the strong anger and murderous intent in the tone of her queen's words. Servais quietly sailed on the optimal route he calculated. As the top echelon of the Eternal Ascendant battle sequence, he had great confidence in his ability to defeat the angel civilization. The source of these confidences is the combat data collected during the last battle with the Angel King and some information obtained through the invasion of Skyblade not long ago. In Services database, civilizations of this type are classified into the Kamigawa series of super warrior civilizations. One of the great characteristics of this type of civilization is the serious imbalance of combat power. Most of the resources of the civilization are concentrated on a few creatures, creating powerful individuals. There is no doubt that the Angel King is the strongest combat unit in the Angel civilization. However, in the last battle, Servs collected the Angel King's battle data and made some improvements and enhancements to the new generation of mechanical warriors based on the Eternal Ascender's technology system. It has been mass-produced and can definitely defeat the Angel King and achieve victory. I just returned to my hometown in the past 2 days. It's too cold and I'm not used to it, so I only have one update. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 266. Just when Services Corps was thinking about these issues, a sudden spatial fluctuation appeared on its surface. As soon as Service transferred his attention to the outside world, he discovered that thousands of female angels were slightly distorted. He rushed out of the wormhole in space and swung out streaks of orange-red sword energy. A series of explosions rose up on the surface of Service's body. Vertical red melting marks appeared on the originally flat and neat body armor. Binghua was also among the many angels who broke into Seve's body through micro-wormholes, and she was extremely eye-catching because the sword energy she wielded was as thin as tissue paper and shaped like a crescent moon, and its length was exaggeratedly over 2 meters. It reached a length of nearly 3 meters. The first time Binghua passed through the micro-wormhole, he instantly swung 3 dark energy sword energy at different angles, directly cutting out a triangular red sword mark on the outer armor of Seva's body. Immediately afterwards, Binghua's whole body fell at a high speed and kicked the piece of metal in the middle of the sword mark. With an ear-splitting roar and the creaking sound of metal twisting, Binghua sank in together with the metal armor under his feet. The other angels in the outside world are not weak. The blade of the flaming sword in their hands lights up with a burning red light, like the blade of a high-heat cutting machine. They work together to easily draw sword marks, violently breaking through Sevis' body. The armor of the watch broke into Serv's interior. This time, the angels who passed through the wormhole and descended on Sevis' body with Binghua were all second-generation angels at their lowest level. Each one of them was a warrior who had experienced hundreds of battles, and they cooperated extremely well. One part destroys the defense facilities and small closed defense forts on the surface of Sevis, while the other part uses the flaming sword to cut its surface armor and penetrates inside to quickly destroy various energy transmission lines. With a bang, Binghua stepped on the heavy metal block under his feet and landed in a passage with exposed energy transmission lines on the wall. Binghua stood up straight and looked around. The environment here was very special. In addition to energy transmission lines, there were also several equipment tracks for transportation on the walls of the passage. Only the flat metal floor was beneath his feet. Just as Binghua was observing his surroundings, a subtle sound of mechanical braking came. Then Binghua saw something similar to a transport cabinet coming from the corner of the passage, which was full of handheld weapons. Binghua did not dodge but walked towards him. At the same time, the space on both sides appeared slightly distorted, and small silver metal feather-like swords emerged from it. The Eliminator robot sitting on the transport platform to expel the angels also flattened the heavy firearm in its hand without saying a word, pulled the trigger without hesitation, and shot out silver particles under the flickering blue arc gun flame. Long bullet. The rate of fire of the gun in the hands of the Eliminator is not very fast, because this giant gun with a length of nearly 1.5 meters is used for long-range sniping, so the rate of fire is only about 1 shot per second, which can easily penetrate ordinary angel warriors who are not protected by armor. Body. Its kinetic energy and penetrating ability are extremely terrifying, and it even has a weak super gene weakening ability that can injure second-generation warriors. The next moment, there was only a tinkling sound, and the hail of bullets hit the barrier formed by the silver-feathered sword in front of Binghua, causing waves of ripples. This is because Binghua's transformation of Yunyu over the past 100 years has strengthened its defense, giving it the ability to combine with each other to form an energy field shield. Coupled with the strength of the Ansu silver weapon itself, it can almost defend against most physical attacks. Binghua didn't see any other movements. As she moved forward, a vertical barrier formed by hundreds of silver feathers also moved forward. When there was an undetectable gap in the Eliminator's firepower, handfuls of silver feathers suspended vertically to form a barrier sharply raised their tips and shot out like crossbow bolts, piercing through not far away in an instant. The chests of a group of Eliminators then automatically flew back to Binghua's side, floating on both sides of the advancing Binghua like the most loyal guards. An angel warrior broke into Seves through the hole cut by the flaming sword. As soon as he landed in the passage, he was hit by a concentrated fire from the defense Eliminators and defense facilities. However, this angel warrior had already been mentally prepared and covered his body with a shield. As soon as he was attacked, he released his hand holding the inner handle of the shield and pushed it forward as a temporary cover. He turned around and swung a half-moon-shaped flaming sword energy, blasting away several Eliminators shooting from behind. At the same time, another angel warrior broke into the passage through the gap at the top of the passage. Because the sisters attracted fire, the angel did not receive many attacks. And compared to the previous sister, this angel's fighting style was obviously much tougher. She directly withstood the firepower with her shield and rushed over. As more and more angels broke into this corridor, the Eliminators, who could only rely on weapons to bully the next generation of angel warriors, were soon chopped into pieces by the flaming sword. After clearing out the Eliminators in this passage, These second-generation Angel warriors did not choose to disperse and fight, but launched flame bombings on the spot to attack the passage ahead. It has to be said that dark energy and hot stellar radiation are very corrosive to metals. Most ordinary alloys without preventive treatment will be easily melted into liquid state by this mixed energy. The war in the surface area of Cevis is like this now. The Angel warriors are overwhelming. They have no intention of attacking downwards along the channels in the surface area of Cevis. Instead, they directly destroy violently and attack deeper like a drilling machine. This makes Cevis the large number of Eliminator troops deployed by Weiss in an emergency were all in vain. At the same time, because the war took place inside Sever's body, the Purifiers and a large number of Annihilator battleships parked in his body were all turned into decorations, and they could only use the Eliminator battle robots underneath to defend themselves. Destroyer 023, the enemy has broken through your surface area defense line and is attacking the outer parking room. I suggest granting control to our mechanical warriors to annihilate the invading angels. In the communication channel of the superior being of the Eternal Ascended One, the Purifiers parked in Seve's body made requests for authorization one after another. Servais looked at the angels who were destroying his body unscrupulously. After a moment, he agreed to the Purifier's request. His colleagues activated the eliminated Heavy Ground Combat Unit, a large-scale heavy firepower combat robot, and authorized it to the Annihilators. Along with the heavy metal door that gradually rose, a burst of heavy footsteps came out. A large robot with a height of 8 meters and a bloated upper body covered with gun barrels walked out of the waiting warehouse with slightly stiff steps. In addition, in the waiting warehouse inside Cevis, 10 human-like figures covered with heavy metal armor appeared, with folding flying wings on their backs. The V-shaped eyepieces on the faces of the robots with folding giant swords beside them suddenly lit up. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 267. Type 01, the Mechanical Divine River Armor has been activated, Purifier 0127 has been authorized, and control is now handed over. The power on self-test has been completed. The output power of the Dark Energy Core is normal, and the activities of various parts and weapon functions are running well. Immediately afterwards, the brackets used to fix these mechanical warriors began to shrink and fold into the wall, and the mechanical warriors, who had no restrictions, stretched out their 5-fingered metal palms, grasped the folding giant sword next to them, and strode away from here towards the transport platform. Boom! Violent explosions continued to sound. Looking at the 3 large robots standing there, several angel warriors hid on the other side of the metal channel wall that served as a bunker. Energy cannonballs compressed into oval shapes kept passing by, hitting the metal wall at the end beside them, causing violent energy explosions. Because of the emergence of this large robot, the angels' offensive was delayed for the first time. Under the suppression of fire, even the second-generation angel warriors with bodies as tough as steel had to temporarily avoid the edge, otherwise they would definitely be seriously injured when caught in the fire. What to do, Ziluo? Yinga leaned against a metal wall, feeling the wall vibrating from the bombing, and asked her good sister Ziluo beside her. Ziluo breathed out a breath, looked at Yinga and gave her a confident smile. Give it to me. After speaking, Ziluo slightly bent his body and jumped out of the bunker where he was hiding. Like an afterimage, he suddenly turned to the left in the air to avoid the energy cannonballs that were fired at him. Ziluo was highly focused at the moment, trying his best to calculate the shooting trajectories of the 3 large robots and at the same time calculate the optimal avoidance route. Seeing an angel rushing out and breaking through the continuous artillery fire suppression, the 3 large war robots immediately allocated part of their computing power to predict the angel's breakthrough route, and shifted their muzzles to fire wildly. After easily advancing about half of the distance, Ziluo also felt tremendous pressure. The orange-red ellipse-like cannonballs like rain curtains almost blocked all the hiding spaces. You must not be hit. As long as you are hit, all your efforts will be wasted. Just when Zilludo thought he was about to fail and be overwhelmed by the dense cannonballs, 3 flaming sword energy suddenly crossed from the side and met the incoming cannonballs. Boom! The detonation of the artillery shells caused a chain reaction. The artillery shells in an area were detonated in the air together, and even Zilludo was affected. Base. The flaming sword pierced the floor beneath him and pulled out a half-meter-long cutting mark. Only then did Zilludo prevent the area from being blown away by the explosion. Zilludo looked back and saw his good sister Yinga, together with the other angels present, wielding flaming sword energy to fight the war robot. 11 Ludo, you are not fighting alone. From now on, just move forward. The corners of Zilludo's mouth raised slightly behind his mask, and he felt extremely satisfied. Just as his good sister said, he was not alone. With his toes touching the ground hard, Zilludo pulled out the flaming sword that had penetrated the ground and charged forward at a high speed, almost touching the ground. On the way, Zilludo's figure blurred, and a slightly illusory clone separated to one side. Suddenly, Zilludo felt that the pressure of avoiding attacks was lessened. After dodging several artillery shells with an irregular flight path, Zilludo finally came to the blind spot of the war robot's attack. Relying on his speed and taking advantage of the war robot's turn, Zilludo whipped his leg out with all his strength. Let me take off. Following 11 Ludo's words, the heavy war robot slightly lifted off the ground and slammed into the body of its companion on the side, causing his companion to almost fall. All the shells fired also hit the top wall above and fell. There was a burst of metal shards. The artillery fire that originally suppressed the passage was weakened by 1/3 in an instant. How could Yinga and the angel warriors present miss this opportunity and rush out to attack the last war robot together? With the heavy sound of large metal parts falling to the ground, the immobile war robot that had just suppressed several angel warriors became scrap parts on the ground. On another battlefield, Angel Ran flapped his wings, dodged left and right, like a blue illusory stream of light, easily avoiding the incoming barrage, and came to a war robot. The flaming sword wrapped in circles of lightning was stabbed effortlessly by Angel into the armor of the large war robot in front of him, and a blue electric arc flashed the next moment. Light black smoke floated from the gaps in the war robot's armor, and its muzzle, which was originally intended to search for targets, was weakly pulled down. Just as Angel Ran completed the above steps, the other war robots on the side moved the muzzle laterally towards their companions without any hesitation, firing compressed high-energy shells. Almost instantly, the paralyzed war robot was blasted into metal fragments flying everywhere by the dense artillery shells. Immediately afterwards, a flaming sword energy that stretched to more than 2 meters separated from the rising fire cloud and flew out, cutting through a war robot and leaving a thin red mark on its body. Boom! It seemed that the energy core was struck by the sword energy, and a huge explosion and flames engulfed the war robot that had just been cut by the sword energy. In the burning firelight, the figure of the angel standing with the sword was full of presence. Nothing could stop her for a moment after breaking into Sevis. This is just a microcosm of many battlefields. After the large war robots joined the battlefield, it did hinder the breakthrough of the second-generation angels, but it could not stop the high-level angels headed by Binghua. Binghua held the King's Sword 7 kills in her right hand and walked in the passage inside Seve's body as if she were in no one's land. The circles of silver feathers surrounding her body would automatically clear away any obstacles along the way for her. Neither the Eliminators nor the huge war robots can withstand the sharpness of the dark silver weapons and can only be cut into scattered parts. After arriving at a relatively open area, Binghua looked around at the metal debris and the space of hundreds of meters around him, feeling that this place should be about the same. Binghua put the King's Sword 7 kills in her hand into the wormhole. The reason why Binghua acted alone this time was because she wanted to test her anti-ship weapons in this battlefield. There is no one better than Sci-fi, who is a celestial fortress. Sci is a more suitable target. Binghua raised his right hand high to hold a handle that emerged from the wormhole. It looked quite heavy. The shape of the silver-gray giant sword was very strange and the handle was beyond the specifications. The whole sword was like a convex shape, like half of an unfinished product. But the change wasn't over yet. Small micro-wormholes emerged one after another, and a handful of silver-gray sword blades or blades without handles emerged from them. Then these large blades suddenly rotated around Binghua's head, and quickly got stuck on Binghua's raised giant sword, continuously lengthening and widening the length and specifications of the giant sword. A moment later, as blades continued to emerge from the micro-wormholes, their overall length gradually exceeded 50 meters and continued to increase when attached to Binghua's raised giant sword. What finally appeared was a supergiant blade that was 100 meters long and had a maximum width of 8 meters. At this moment, Binghua was as disobedient as an ant holding a wooden stick, but no one would doubt the destructive power of the supergiant blade. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 268. Even Binghua, who now possesses the divine body of an angel, would not be able to easily hold such a supersized giant blade, because it would be like Hercules lifting a mountain. Even if he was strong enough to pick up this giant weapon, it would never be smooth when swinging it. But from the beginning, Binghua positioned this giant weapon as a very large target. In previous battles, Binghua relied on the 1-meter-long King Sword 7 kills and silver feather in his hands to fight against battleships thousands of meters long. Even with the assistance of flame bombing, it was still a little inadequate. So the plan of supergiant soldiers was put on the agenda, but because of the huge size, Binghua's own computing power alone could not move it out of the wormhole in a short time. However, if it is extremely inconvenient to carry it in advance, the super soldier's advantages in speed and flexibility will be completely lost due to the drag of the supergiant soldier. In the end, Binghua dismantled the supergiant soldier, transported it out through multiple micro-wormholes, and temporarily assembled it. In doing so, Binghua discovered an advantage, that is, the length of the combination can be determined according to the battlefield environment. Binghua held the handle of a giant weapon that was nearly 1 meter long and 2 fingers thick with both hands. The huge mass caused the metal ground she stepped on to collapse slightly inward. At the same time, this giant weapon also had its own name, called Star Blade of Destruction. Just as Binghua completed the combination of the Star Blade of Destruction, several large war robots walked in from the passage at one end with heavy steps, lowering their muzzles and pointing them in Binghua's direction. "You're here just in time, I'll use you to test the sword." Binghua let out a low cry and waved his slender arms with the Star Blade of Destruction, which was over 100 meters long above his head, and slashed down. The silver feathers around him turned into a shield to block the incoming energy shells for Binghua. Before the Star Blade of Destruction could be chopped down, its tip had already touched the metal wall. With the harsh sound of the metal being torn apart, it was easily split apart, along with the war robots that fired at Binghua. It shattered, leaving a 100-meter-long gap in the metal ground in front of Binghua. This time, he only used the destructive power caused by the mass of the destruction star blade itself. Then the muscles on Binghua's arm tightened, and he lifted the destruction star blade from the breach with the sound of metal twisting. The next moment, a trace of burning red lit up from the sword grid of the Star Blade of Destruction, and spread forward along the tiny gaps on the blade, gradually turning the entire blade of the Star Blade of Destruction into a burning red. This is the posture of the built-in weapon engine of the Star Blade of Destruction after it is truly turned on. The burning red on the blade is nothing else but the product of dark energy and stellar radiation energy. The two of them are like flames and accelerants. The relationship is like that. The ultra-high temperature it generates, combined with the material of the destruction star blade itself, can almost easily cut through most of the known metals and alloys in the angelic civilization, and is only slightly weaker than the dark silver weapons under normal conditions. As Binghua continued to wield the 100-meter Star Blade of Destruction, The birthing room at a height of more than 100 meters was quickly penetrated by Binghua through several floors and turned into a large space of several thousand meters. It was just a change. It was quite dilapidated, with broken walls and broken battleship wreckage everywhere. This was Hyuka's masterpiece in just a few minutes. Although it was not too serious a damage to Service, whose diameter was measured in kilometers, it still attracted some of Service's attention. After Binghua continued to cut downwards for a while, he felt that this was still too slow, so he directly activated the destruction mode of the Star Blade of Destruction. The originally put together sword body began to deform, with the sword spine as the axis, the sword blade as the edge, and the energy position as the bracket, forming a slender triangle similar to a drill bit. The next moment, the weapon engines of each component of the Star Blade of Destruction received instructions from the weapon engine on the main body in Binghua's hand, and began to rotate clockwise with the spine of the sword. Binghua pushed the sword downward, and the rotating tip of the front part of the Destruction Star Blade easily drilled a large hole in the ground. The rotating blade that then sank in expanded the hole and shattered it. Finally, when Binghua's body passed through the hole, the diameter of the hole had become 100 meters. Binghua was no longer looking for the target but kept pushing the hilt of the sword towards the depths of Sevis. No matter how thick the armor layer was along the way, it would be cut through by the star-shattering blade, leaving a passage with a diameter of 100 meters behind. After some angel warriors who were originally left behind by Binghua discovered this passage, they flew directly into the depths of Sevis' body to cause large-scale destruction. As a celestial-level combat unit, Servs naturally has no defensive measures in its body. It has hidden turrets everywhere, as well as countless eliminator robot warriors, large war robots, etc. But as an ancient civilization that has existed for more than 50,000 years, the angel civilization is not a weakling. Not to mention Binghua's indestructible angel body, the second-generation warrior's body is as tough as a special alloy. If it needs to be killed, it requires continuous firepower. However, the flying ability and speed of the angels made it a bit difficult to carry out continuous fire strikes. In addition, as soon as they encountered an obstruction, the angel warriors cut into the walls and rushed around unscrupulously, causing the defense line deployed by serfs to be useless. Especially Binghua, a crazy and turbulent existence. If Sevis is an intelligent life, his face will definitely be distorted at this moment, because anyone who sees something rushing around in his body will be so angry that he wants to kill her. I don't know how long I have been drilling into the depths with the Destruction Star Blade. After crossing an unknown number of layers of passages, a tall figure suddenly rushed out with a sword and slashed Binghua away. With a roar, Binghua's back knocked out a huge dent in the metal wall, and the Star Blade of Destruction also continuously shattered the surrounding metal due to Binghua's movement and changing position, like a monster that devoured everything. Binghua moved the hilt of the sword that had been moved in front of him because of the attack, and moved his eyes to the figure that had just attacked him. The appearance of the simple silver-gray armor with sharp edges is not bloated, but it looks very tall. On the back are two unfolded folding flying wings. In his hand is a sci-fi style sword, and according to Binghua's visual inspection, the sword held by this figure should also contain a long-range weapon. At the same time, through the details of the joints, it is found that it is not a living body, but a purely mechanical body. Has it finally appeared? The special combat unit of the Eternal Ascended One, I won't accompany you to play slowly this time. After saying this, Binghua immediately let go of the hilt of the Destruction Star Blade that she was stepping on, and fiercely pulled out the 7-kill sword from the wormhole with her right hand. She flapped her wings and rushed towards the figure that had just attacked her. King of angelic civilization, you will be purified here and become one of us. It was a voice full of mechanical style, but Binghua heard a condescending look from it. After hearing this, Binghua snorted coldly, swung a sword energy as thin as paper, and replied sarcastically. You are qualified to say this only if you can defeat me, otherwise it is just your delusional words. As soon as Binghua finished speaking, he directly used the thunder fighting method. In an instant, he caught up with the sword energy he had just swung. When the tall mechanical warrior inadvertently went around to the side, the 7 Killing King sword passed by with a diagonal slash from bottom to top. Its head. It wasn't until Binghua Yuan put down the 7 Killing King sword that the tall mechanical warrior raised the blocking giant sword, but at this moment, its head had slipped and fell into the destruction star blade below and was crushed to pieces. However, even though his head was cut off by Binghua, the tall mechanical warrior was not paralyzed. Instead, he continued to rush towards Binghua with his headless body, attacking as if he was not affected. TCH. Forgot that you are not a living being, so you are not afraid of being beheaded. Binghua retreated slightly to easily dodge the incoming sword peak, and kicked it to the side. Just as Binghua raised his sword and prepared to charge forward, he suddenly caught a glimpse of a flash of light from the corner of his eye. Feeling the danger, Binghua temporarily cancelled her forward movement and immediately leaned her upper body back as far as possible. A thick beam of blazing white forearm passed above Binghua's chest, pressing down like a light-edged sword. At the same time, the huge sword of the headless mechanical warrior struck. Binghua's eyes turned cold. Did these mechanical warriors really think they could hurt her just like this? A dull sound came out, and Binghua grabbed the huge sword chopped down by the headless mechanical warrior with his left hand and slowly raised it, because with such force, Binghua's fingertips were slightly embedded in the sword body. Don't underestimate Binghua's power just because of his thin body. Why does the angelic civilization call the third-generation super warrior a divine body? This is because the divine warrior already possesses some of the mighty power that can only be possessed by the legendary gods. It is natural that he can move mountains. Otherwise, how could Binghua wield such a giant weapon like the Star Blade of Destruction? As for the suppressed beam, it was briefly blocked by 2 flaming swords emerging from the micro-wormholes. The moment gained was enough for Binghua to send the Wang sword into the chest of the headless mechanical warrior. The tall mechanical warrior in the distance who was holding a folded giant sword and firing a blazing white beam was stunned, because in the camera, a huge thing was hitting its position, followed by more than a dozen sharp blades flying towards it. Boom! Then there was the sound of metal being penetrated. In the end, the mechanical warrior who was sniping at Binghua from a long distance still couldn't escape Binghua's attack range in time. The flaming sword that came from the fire turned into a hedgehog and was nailed to the metal wall. Binghua in the distance suddenly frowned, because she felt that 2 huge data streams were flowing out of the body of the mechanical warrior that he had just dismembered and crucified, and were moving towards the depths of Sevis. Want to run? Binghua shouted, and his consciousness sank directly into the dark plane gene engine and began to operate. Dark information flows spread out with Binghua as the center. Under the wash of dark information data flow, 2 unknown data flows appeared in Binghua's perception. Binghua instantly used his huge computing power to forcibly intercept one of the data streams. When he was about to intercept another data stream, an extremely huge data stream instantly crushed Binghua out of the dark plane. Binghua, who was floating in mid-air, suddenly fell to the ground like a kite with its string broken, letting out several painful low groans. What was that just now? Binghua held his temples, feeling his head buzzing and his vision even showing a trace of double vision. How arrogant you dare to take the initiative to connect to our data network. Although I expelled and defeated the invasion of the Angel King, we also lost a compatriot. Purifier 0172 will never be able to contribute to the purification operation through restarting. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 269. After a while, the buzzing in Binghua's mind finally disappeared, and his mind became clear again. Binghua never wanted to experience the experience he had just now, because the feeling of his consciousness being washed away was too uncomfortable. Fortunately, in the end, the engine's protective measures kicked in, breaking her out of that state. Standing up from the ground with the 7-killing king sword, Binghua flew to the destruction star blade that was lying there, straightened it up and moved towards the depths again. No mechanical warriors came to stop him on the way until Binghua pushed the star blade of destruction through a metal layer that was hundreds of meters thick and entered a huge open manufacturing room. The half-assembled warships are arranged like an assembly line, with various metal parts hanging on the metal arms hanging down on the side. There are large-caliber energy turrets with a diameter of several meters and a length of more than 10 meters, as well as close defense energy cannons with several barrels combined to enhance their own firepower. The Star Blade of Destruction, which had returned from destruction mode to normal mode, fell from above and pierced the floor but failed to pierce through it. Only a quarter of the blade was engulfed. If the angel civilization really engages in a head-on confrontation with a production-type celestial fortress that integrates manufacturing and assembly, it will definitely be a war that cannot be ended in a short time. Binghua thought so in his heart, and became more determined to destroy this celestial fortress. He must not miss the great opportunity to break into its interior at this moment. Just as Binghua was observing the surroundings, there was a crisp sound of footsteps on the metal floor. Binghua looked at her face and her pupils shrank because the appearance of the visitor was something she had never expected. She has long black shawl hair that is smooth but has metallic reflections. She looks soft but has a faint hint of indifference on her face. Under her slender and slightly arched eyebrows is a pair of sharp eyes, but there is no agility in them. He was wearing the same Angel King armor as Binghua, and behind him were folded flying wings that looked very wide. Except for the wings on his back, his dull pupils and his metallic-colored skin, the newcomer was 90% similar to Binghua, and even their heights were the same. Binghua finally spoke after observing for a while, feeling a little speechless. Should I say that you have violated my image rights? You couldn't hear the curse in Binghua's words. As an intelligent life form, it was still quite upright now. Although it's not 100% complete yet, it's enough for fighting. King of Angels, the aircraft in front of you is made from you as a template and the most cutting-edge technology collected by Seminary over the years. As I said when I self-destruct last time, the day we meet is the day you fall. Binghua lowered his gaze slightly to look at the mechanical warrior opposite him who was very similar to himself. He didn't feel any anger in his heart. After all, it was just a machine in the end. Then let me see how long the puppet made with your technology can stop me. Before Binghua finished speaking, he stepped back with his toes, and while rushing forward, the 7 kills in his hand was a horizontal slash. A flash of silver sword light passed through the body of the female mechanical warrior controlled by Sevis, but it failed to cut it in half. A wide-edged sword with a similar shape to Binghua's Chaiwan sword was erected in front of him, blocking Binghua's horizontal sword that he just slashed out. However, it was visible to the naked eye that the blade of the toothed sword had been chipped off by Binghua's 7-killing king's sword. This made the remotely controlled serfs feel a little surprised. The large folded mechanical wings behind his back unfolded and flew backward while flying backwards. Each spindle-shaped part separated, and at the same time, it shot out a red beam of light, which intersected to form a large net covering Binghua. Hyuka Danping Wangjian did not choose to dodge and rushed straight towards the beam-cutting net that was coming. However, on the way, Silver Feather emerged from the wormhole and destroyed all the spindle-shaped parts that shot out of the beam net as if it was on the right track. The beam-cutting net disappeared into the air in an instant, and a silvery cold light pointed directly at the chest of the female mechanical warrior. Serfs completed thousands of calculations in an instant, found several evasion and response methods, and automatically selected the best one among them, dodge and counterattack. He turned sideways in advance to avoid the tip of Binghua's sword, and at the same time swung the tooth sword in his hand to draw Binghua who was close. Binghua's eyes took in all of this, and he already had a response plan in his mind. Faint red particles appeared on the arms holding the sword. Binghua suddenly let go of the right palm holding the sword, and grabbed the drawn toothed blade. The dark energy began to erode the material of the toothed blade along Binghua's palm and pulled it in his direction. He held the sword in his left hand and swung it towards the chest of the female mechanical warrior. But the next moment, the decisive blow was broken by Service. The female mechanical warrior's legs bent unnaturally, and she kicked Binghua away with her whip leg in a posture that was impossible for flesh and blood, thus breaking the life and death crisis just now. Binghua staggered for 2 steps and then stabilized his figure. He did not choose to do any more nonsense. The dark energy drive was activated. The silver sword was immediately stained with a layer of burning red, and he turned around and swung the sword. A thin, elongated sword energy cut through the ground and flew forward, followed closely by Binghua, with the king's sword in his hand ready to slash out at any time. The female mechanical warrior with the blessing of Seva's computing power retreated sharply to distance herself from Binghua. The toothed sword in her hand that had been pinched by Binghua with several fingerprints was quickly drawn out like a whip, and the sword energy was cut away. It turned into energy debris all over the sky. Binghua discovered that his opponent, the female mechanical warrior who looked very similar to himself, was fighting very much like when he was holding the red abyss sword. This made Binghua feel a little funny. As a user of this kind of whip sword, she knew the advantages and disadvantages very well. Binghua's fingers touched the body of the 7 kills sword, and the scorching red halo immediately spread, as if it might burst and burn everything around it at any time. Service also discovered the surge in energy intensity on the sword in Binghua's hand, and immediately activated the special parts on the back of the female mechanical warrior. 8 slender pentagonal devices ejected, 4 of which gathered together, opening a rectangular hole in the dark space in the air. Binghua also completed the preparations for the flame bombardment at this time, raised his sword blade and slashed forward. Red-hot energy spurted out from the tip of the sword, eating away at everything in front of it like a storm. Whether it was the metal floor or the unassembled semi-finished warship, they melted into a flowing liquid metal solution under the wash of energy, glowing orange. High heat light. The female mechanical warrior flew upside down and escaped into the rectangular dark hole behind her before the energy storm came. After Binghua released the flame bombardment, his figure disappeared in a burst of blur, leaving behind a realistic projection holding a sword and observing the surroundings. Due to the raging energy of the flame bombing, Service also temporarily lost his observation of the manufacturing room, but he was able to calculate the time when the flame bombing faded by relying on calculation. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 270. The energy storm caused by the flame bombing dissipated, leaving behind a piece of high-temperature metal solution that was melted and bubbled flowing on the ground. And just above the metal solution, the air suddenly cracked, revealing a dark space hole inside, from which a female mechanical warrior modeled on ice flew out. The female mechanical warrior's perspective at this moment is a bit blurry due to the residual influence of dark energy escaping in the air, with little snowflakes appearing from time to time. But it was enough for it to lock Binghua's position. 2 pieces of the folded flying wings unfolded on its back quickly fell off, and were combined with its split and deformed left hand to form a square barrel about half a meter long, with a blazing white light shining inside. Several beams of light shot out towards Binghua's position. At the same time, the flying wings on its back spread out to push its body forward at a high speed. Binghua in the distance stood motionless, and the laser beam passed directly through its body. This result made the female machine remotely controlled. Soldier, the Serv's program that was calculating the next attack method was confused for a moment, but then it calculated a possibility. It was not an entity at all but a projection fake. Calculating this possibility, Service immediately controlled the female mechanical warrior to stop charging forward, preparing to distance herself and use scattered firepower to cover and force out Binghua's true body. Suddenly a flash of red light appeared, and the red abyss sword appeared from the air and struck at the female mechanical warrior, wrapping around the flying wings behind her. Binghua's figure emerged from the air, holding the red abyss sword in his left hand and pulling it back. The female mechanical warrior was immediately pulled towards Binghua. On the way, the female mechanical warrior pointed the cannon barrel of her left arm in Binghua's direction and fired a blazing white beam, cutting across it like a light blade. Binghua's reaction was also extremely fast. He used a micro wormhole to transport a flaming sword and aimed the female mechanical warrior at his own barrel and missed it. He slashed forward with the 7-kill sword in his right hand. There was a sound of heavy metal falling to the ground, and the female mechanical warrior whose shoulder was cut in half diagonally stretched out her arms and crawled forward on the ground, but the next moment a silver sword penetrated the energy core of her chest from top to bottom. Binghua didn't pull out the 7-killing king sword that penetrated her until she confirmed that the eyes on the ground had lost their light and that the female robot, which was 90% similar to her own appearance, was completely paralyzed. In the core area, Survey stared at the scene of being disconnected from the female mechanical warrior, and the ongoing battle calculations came to a standstill. At this moment, it was like a carbon-based intelligent life form in a daze. The Angel King's combat power far exceeded the information collected previously. The mechanical warrior he created based on it did not even last 10 minutes before losing the ability to continue fighting. Soon, Service's various calculation projects began to continue, and the assessment of Hiawa's combat power in the database was also updated. At the same time, in an area close to the core area, there is a mechanical warrior with folded wings on its back and female-like features. The structure of the eye sockets on its face lights up, as if it has opened its eyes. However, unlike the female mechanical warrior who fought Binghua before, these faces have exposed mechanical structures, and there is no smooth special metal hair. The difference is like the difference between a finished product and a semi-finished product. Service felt a little regretful. It had initially developed the emotion of intelligent life and had a certain sense of aesthetics. Because of its long-term exposure to the civilization of the Divine River, it preferred the softer curves of the Divine River to the cold and angular machinery. Therefore, the lower-level warriors, eliminators and war robots under Severus were designed based on the human form. After the last battle to collect the battle data of the Angel King, Serves felt that the Kamigawa body super warrior Binghua, who combined strength and beauty, fit his aesthetic, so he designated the template for the new generation of mechanical warriors. For Binghua's appearance. After the experimental body was manufactured and passed combat testing, Service equipped the female mechanical warrior modeled after ice with a soft alloy armor skin and specially processed brushed long hair. This process was like Service squeezing a figure, but unfortunately, its figure was destroyed by the real owner today, and now he has to send out a semi-finished mass-produced figure to deal with the real owner. Binghua dismantled the Star Blade of Destruction and put it into the micro-wormhole. This place should be very close to the core layer of Sevis, and the Star Blade of Destruction could no longer play much of a role. After completing all the above, Binghua found the transportation orbit inside Sevis, and continued to move deeper through the orbit, targeting the energy reactor in the celestial fortress Sevis. As long as this is found, no matter how huge the celestial fortress is, it will become a moving piece of cosmic garbage. If you do some tricks on it, maybe you can set off a cosmic fireworks. On the other side, the elite angels of the Heavenly Sword Legion, who were left behind by Binghua, held back a large number of Eternal Ascended troops who came to pursue them. The fight has now turned into an unprecedented melee. The female angels' side suffered a lot of casualties, and the Eternal Ascended troops responsible for blocking and defending suffered even more losses. Angel Rand's body was shining with blue arcs of electricity as he fought fiercely with a tall mechanical warrior in the air. Several sword energy entwined with thunder flew toward the tall mechanical warrior, but it passed through the gaps in the sword energy and dodged it. Seeing this, Angel Ran swooped down directly, relying on electromagnetic acceleration to increase his impact force. He slashed the tall mechanical warrior away with a sword and crashed through a metal wall. But soon the tall mechanical warrior flew towards Angel Ran through the metal wall with a big hole. Except for some damage on the blade of the giant sword in his hand, it was not serious at all. Seeing this, Angel Ran frowned and gritted his teeth secretly, turned around and flew to other lines of defense without paying attention, but soon the tall mechanical warrior stuck up again and kept firing blazing white beams to interfere with Angel Ran. Angel Ran doesn't want to fight these rough-skinned guys at all now. It's not that she's afraid of them, but that she and other angel warriors have a mission, which is to find the core reactor of the celestial fortress where they are and destroy it. For this reason, Angel Ran, who is a sharp knife, has a heavy responsibility and does not want to get entangled with such a durable mechanical warrior. The mechanical warrior that entangled Angel Ran was controlled by the purifier. After fighting for a while, it found that the machine it controlled could not kill the high-level angels of the angel civilization. It changed its fighting method and focused on defending against entanglement. After all, here but it is the home ground of the Eternal Ascender. Queen, I have been entangled by the special combat unit of the Eternal Ascended One. I can't get rid of it for the time being. I'm afraid I won't be able to go to the deep layers to find the core reactor. Binghua was not too surprised when he heard this. Using thousands of elite angels to attack the fortress of the Eternal Ascended Ones was a risky tactic. If Binghua hadn't been very confident in his own fighting ability, he wouldn't have formulated such a tactic, let alone rushed to the front as the tip of the blade.